The student group that runs Sex Week at UT is responding to a report from state lawmakers and investigators. Lawmakers called on the comptroller's office to investigate Sex Week, and it released its findings in a 269-page report yesterday. That report found university officials did not do enough to address lawmakers' concerns about the event.
10 News reporter Stephanie Haynes spoke to students on campus about what they think of Sex Week and what state leaders said. Stephanie?
Robin and John, the student group that runs Sex Week is called Sexual Empowerment and Awareness at Tennessee, or SEAT, and they say they feel mischaracterized by that report.
I think we've always felt a little mischaracterized by our state legislature, no matter how much support we have on campus, in the Knoxville community, from our faculty, our professors.
Megan Henley is the co-chair of SEAT, the group that runs Sex Week at UT. She says her group has worked with administrators over the past year, and she's disappointed with the state's report.
We have always treated human sexuality as a topic of utmost intellectual importance. Our programming has been and is still largely put on by professionals, doctors, and professors.
Sex Week began in 2013 and has drawn criticism from lawmakers and others. The state comptroller's report found that Sex Week got the highest allocation of funding from student activity fees in the past 4 out of 5 years. The report found in 2018, 694 people attended one of the events out of a student body of more than 28,000 students. Right now, students have the option to opt out of paying for student programming in general if they don't want to pay for Sex Week. That's what junior Jack Huddleston did.
I know that that money could potentially go to things that I don't agree with, like Sex Week.
The comptroller's policy considerations recommended UT change this method so that administrators have oversight of how student groups get funding instead. And when that change takes place, Henley says Sex Week will adapt.
We are willing to work with a new system, and we are willing to help put our input into that and to work with it and work with administrators to develop it.
The UT Board of Trustees will discuss the comptroller's policy considerations at its meeting on March 1st, and you could read more about the findings of the comptroller's office report and find a link to the full report at WBIR.com. Robin and John.
Stephanie, thank you.